Welcome to this chat today with Luke Stoughton from the Data School. Luke is our head of recruitment, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have. So if you do have any, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we will address those. The purpose of this call today is to inform you on the Data School, what we're looking for in candidates, how you can apply, and so on. We want to make sure that you get the best opportunity you can to get into the Data School. Luke, thanks for joining. You want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for asking me, Andy. So my name is Luke. I'm Global Head of Recruitment at the Information Lab in the Data School. So I look after recruitment for our data schools in London. I'm kind of more hands-on with that. And then I oversee recruitment in New York. We have Colin, who's based in New York. He does a great job out there. Does the reviewing of applications, etc., and nurturing all the candidates. And our colleague Lena in Germany does it for our Hamburg-based data school. So I've been with the company for it'll be 8 years next year. I started off as a consultant, a Tableau and Alteryx consultant, so helping our clients from our core team, with their Tableau and Alteryx problem, helping them see and understand their data. And as the company grew, some more roles became available, and I used to really enjoy teaching Tableau, so I did in universities for a little bit, and now look after recruitment.
There you are. Great. Yeah, and as a kind of aside here, or maybe not an aside, but I had an interview with Ruth, one of our data school coaches, a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about kind of what, during the interview process. So if you decide you want to apply and you want a bit of a head start on kind of what we're looking for to prepare yourself, I'd highly encourage you to listen to that as well. So Luke, you want to quickly take everybody through our application process?
Sure. So first of all, it's important to state that it's an aptitude-based recruitment process. If any of you listening or watching are looking for jobs, you probably applied to lots of jobs where you send off your CV, your resume, and wait to see if you're shortlisted, and then wait to see if you get an interview, and all of that. I think we've all done applications like that. That's not how we do it at the Information Lab. So by aptitude-based, it means there's a task. So what we ask you to do is to find a data set that you're interested in. And that's really important that you're actually interested in it, because your output will be much better. If you choose something you find boring or you're not that engaged with, then you probably won't produce great work. So that's the first stage. Second stage, download Tableau Public and have a play around with that data. There's plenty of resource online. We have a great YouTube channel at the Information Lab which can help you. Apparently there's someone called Andy Kriebel who produces quite a lot of content as well, which apparently is quite good. So check him out, and yeah, get to know Tableau a little bit, play around with the data, see what's in there, and then choose a cohort to apply to. So on our website, theinformationlab.com if you're in the US, .co.uk if you're in the UK, .de for Germany. All the cohorts, the upcoming cohorts are listed out there. You can choose one to apply to which best suits your schedule. And when you apply through there, you'll be asked to upload or include a URL for your dashboard, and optionally you can include your resume, your CV if you want to. It's useful information for us, but what we don't do is determine who gets the job based on CV or resumes alone, which a lot of companies do. So when you send in your dashboard, we'll take a look at it. We encourage you to send it in as far in advance of the deadline for your chosen cohort as you can. And that will enable us to have more time to give you feedback on that. And what we're doing really is putting you through a mini consulting situation. I know as a consultant, a former consultant myself, I worked with a load of different clients, and typically you turn up and they give you a spec of what they're looking for, an outline of the project that you're creating a dashboard for. And it just never happens that the first version you produce is what they want. And they may like certain parts of it, but they probably want you to change little bits of it. So really that's what we're doing in our process, and seeing how you react to feedback, how you go away, find information online, find new resources for you to use and improve your work. And then once you've done that, you're welcome to come back with your next version and we'll take a look at that. In theory, that feedback is infinite. What we ask you to do is to, well, what we expect to see is a definite improvement from one version to the other. In practice, we don't have the resource to give you infinite feedback. So what we'll be doing is give you probably 1-2 rounds of feedback. If we see a definite improvement, then we'll be looking to make a decision on whether to move you forward in the process after that.
Okay, and another resource people can use if you want to just practice is Makeover Monday. So I also run a session every Monday that you can kind of watch how I approach visualizations. And that's just a really good way for you to practice with different data sets as well. And you'll start building up this portfolio on Tableau Public, because I know when Luke gets an application, the first thing he does is go look at your Tableau Public profile and kind of see what you've been doing. And it'll help us have your work as well. So, and it's just an easy way to practice. It's safe. There's no harm in doing it, but it's going to just, all it's going to do is improve your skills, which can hurt when you come around to submitting your data school application. We do have a couple questions on the chat, but I will come back to those in a minute, because I want to make sure we get through some of kind of the foundations of kind of what we're looking for in the interviews anyway. So going back to kind of the original application, they need to build something. Why is it entirely based on building a visualization?
Because, well, for a start, Tableau has a free version called Tableau Public. We also use Alteryx, which is a data manipulation tool at the data school and the information lab. There isn't a free version of that, so we don't ask you to use that in our application process. But really, what we're looking for is, how have you picked up the software Tableau? How have you used the plentiful resources online to get yourself up and running in it? We don't expect you to be experts, but it's a good gauge of us good gauge for us to see how you pick up technical, new technical tools. There's more to the role than purely technical. In fact, the technical part is probably one of the 4 building blocks, I would say, of the role. You have the technical side, which, having done this now 37 times almost in the UK, we're pretty good at this. We know we can teach pretty much everyone how to be good with Tableau and Alteryx. But really, we're looking for people who aren't just technically gifted and technically skilled. What we want is people who are great communicators. They can form good relationships with clients. Consulting is a very people-orientated profession. It's all about relationships, maintaining relationships with our clients. We're also looking for analytical people. So, do you like solving problems? Are you curious? People with those qualities tend to do well in the job. And it's also a creative role as well, because when you're taking a big table of numbers and translating that into something visual, which people perhaps without technical backgrounds can understand and interpret and gain insight from, it's a really creative thing. So yeah.
Okay.
Much more to it than just technical.
And also part of the process, why we ask people to build something, is because it helps us see whether you really want the job or not. Are you passionate about this type of work? If we just asked for a resume or a CV, we'd probably get hundreds of applications, or we already get hundreds, but we might get 1,000 applications for a cohort. And that doesn't tell us who really is passionate about this kind of work. So that actually acts as a filter for us as well, which has worked out really well. So once they, let's say that you've reviewed their application, you say, okay, you've made nice improvements. We've got the next step where we start to assess the non-technical skills, or kind of their people skills. So what's the follow-up steps after they submit their application and get through to kind of the next stage?
Okay. So once you've iterated a few times and we've decided to take your application forward, you will have a video call with one of our coaches. So in the UK, we have several dedicated data school coaches. This includes Andy as well. Andy's involved with some of the phone screens. And we will invite you to have a video call with one of our coaches. They're kind of allocated at random through the system we use, depending on who's available at whatever time. And during that call, you will have a kind of informal chat about your dashboard. You'll talk through maybe your design choices, the analysis that you've created, maybe some insights that you've noticed, some stories within the data. And you also talk a bit about yourself. You'll probably be asked some questions about consulting, what you think that involves. And then, assuming that goes well, you'll then go forward into the final stage.
Okay. And what happens at that stage?
So at that point, we have a group of finalists for a specific cohort, and we will choose a data set for all of those finalists. They'll all get the same
Really
data
fun
set.
ones too.
Yeah, we try and make sure that they're not sort of mainstream topics. So what we want is everyone to be on a sort of level playing field in terms of their understanding or their knowledge of the data. And we've had things like English freshwater fish surveys. We've had
Rubik's Cube championships. Yeah.
World championships, the world records. Yeah, all sorts of other ones. It's really fun, and we hope that the applicants find it fun as well. And really, it's our hope that regardless of the outcome of the process, people learn something by taking part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rather than spending hours filling out a form for a job, actually you're learning a very employable skill in Tableau during this process. So when we give everyone the data set, what we do as well is we allocate them a buddy or a data school consultant who's currently employed by us, and you're able to organize a call with them, bounce some ideas off them, get some feedback, ask them about the role as well. It's not just purely feedback on your dashboard. So you have about 10 days to create your final dashboard. After that, we'll invite you in for an interview. Typically, they're over a couple of days. You'll get your interview slot and come in to our office here in St. Paul's in London, and you'll present your final dashboard. You'll have 5 minutes to do that. And then after that, we'll ask you some questions on it. There'll be a more traditional job interview section to your interview with some situational questions. And then finally, you're welcome to ask us any questions that you may have about the company, the role, or indeed the interview.
Okay. So a little tip for those, a little secret for those that are listening. There are lots of blog posts on the Data School website about the final interviews. So I would encourage you to read those as a way to prepare. Okay. So we've done all the final interviews. I think we had close to 40 the last time. What are the potential outcomes?
There are several outcomes. First of all, you may get offered the role. That may well be for the cohort that you've applied to. We also try and make sure that our cohorts are as varied as possible in terms of people's backgrounds. We are very proud of our gender split within the data school. It's almost 50-50. So we try and make sure that there's a really good balance of people in terms of their backgrounds, their experiences, and everything else. And it makes it a more interesting place to work. So that's one outcome. We aren't necessarily bound to offering only 8 spots for the upcoming cohort. Sometimes we do offer more. Some people need to relocate. Some people are on longer notice periods, etc. So, there is more opportunity than perhaps there appears straight away in terms of just being 8 spots. That's one option. You may be close, but just not quite there. You might just need a bit more work to get you to the point where we can offer to you. In which case, people who were there almost, but not quite, we invite back to the final interviews of the next cohort. So you get another shot at that. You don't have to do the initial dashboard creation. You just go straight into the final stage. And the last option.
I know we've got one person on the. Go ahead.
So the last option is unlucky, didn't quite make it. You did very well to get to the final, but go away. You're more than welcome to apply again. So even if you don't get in, it's not the end of the road.
Yeah. And in that part, if you do reapply, we do expect to see some progress on your Tableau public profile. So don't just turn around and do an application the next day. Go off, do some Makeover Mondays, do some things to show us that you're improving your skills before you apply again. I know we've got some questions on here. We have one person watching who is actually somebody coming back for the final interviews. So that's good to see. So why don't I just, before I move on with kind of the questions that I've prepared, I think it's important we answer some of the questions we have from the group here. So Jeff Stevens asks, is it necessary to be local to the cities where the data schools are? He lives in Southern California and can't relocate.
Well, first of all, we're very lucky living in Southern California.
Well, all of Southern California is probably on fire, though, so maybe not.
Right. No, I'm thinking more of the point of, as we're going into London here.
The weather, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, is the answer. So at the moment, we require people to be in the city, at least for the training period. The US situation is slightly different because we're starting out there. So most of our placements will be in New York. We're a little bit more flexible in London. You have to be in London for the training period. A lot of our
you
clients
will have to be in New York for the training period as well.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of our clients, particularly post-COVID, are still significantly remote. Some are entirely remote. Others are starting to go back to the office a couple of days a week. So yeah, I mean, it helps to be in the city where you are. We do have people who live outside of London who are in part of the London Data School, and they tend to do entirely or mainly remote placements. But if we ever go back to how it was before COVID, people will need to be in the city where they're applying to.
And you can always relocate for just those 4 months of the training as well, particularly in the U.S. where the country's so big. So Jeff, we actually do have customers that are in California. So if you had decided that you want to relocate for the 4 months and then maybe move back to Southern California, and we have placements there, then that might work out really well. So, but of course we can't promise that either. Okay, so we have Anissa has a question. Well, not really a question on here. She said she's already applied and she's just waiting for some feedback. And I had a quick look at her application and looks really good. So it looks like it's her first iteration of her feedback. So Anissa, you should be hearing something back soon. So she sent us an email on Monday.
I actually gave her some feedback this afternoon.
Oh,
so
okay.
You should have
there you
that
go.
in your inbox.
Okay, good timing then. Okay, I'm from India. I'm looking to learn Tableau from beginning. Okay, that's not really kind of what the So the data school is more a training program to then become a consultant. So it's not really just a regular kind of, here's learning Tableau from scratch. Okay, Aman, will data school provide sponsorship for persons from other countries?
I'm afraid not at the moment. No. We don't offer sponsorship for anyone. So unfortunately, in Europe now, post Brexit, that also rules out a lot of people from Europe who previously we would have been able to employ, but we don't sponsor visas at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I see Maria also has a question. Maria Sendeka, is it obligatory to be based in London? And Maria, I think I just had a quick look at your LinkedIn profile, and it looks like you're in Poland. So as long as you have the right to work in the UK, then that's fine. So Luke, what was it called? It was like settled status or something like that for people that lived in the UK that were from Europe before Brexit was official, right? Something like that. So if you have that, you'd be okay. Yeah.
It's pre-settled and settled status.
Yeah. But you would need to relocate to London for the training. We've actually had quite a few people from Poland go through the data school. Okay, so Ghoul has a question. As a beginner, is it too late to apply for the next recruitment process, which is on the 14th of October for London, or should they wait until the next one in December?
Well, the deadline of the 14th of October is for the cohort starting in December. So
okay, well that answers that then.
Yep, we've actually filled the October and the November cohorts from the previous interview dates.
Okay, so that goes back to what you were talking about before about the potential outcomes. So we had tons and tons of great candidates in the final interview, so that allowed us to offer roles in the future. So we filled up that November cohort. So Gould, the next cohort after that would be in February.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah. So, and the application deadline for that would be roughly middle of December, and then interviews would take place the beginning of January. Okay. Now, whether you want to answer this question or not, I'm not sure, but how many applicants do you get per cohort?
I would say on average, we get around 100 applications per cohort, something like that. I would say that a lot of them aren't that strong. And obviously, we're not expecting you to be experts when you first apply. However, if you use the resources that are available online and do a bit of research about data visualization, best practice, that sort of thing, it's quite easy to see the people on their first application who have put in the time to research and spend a bit of time understanding the principles of what it is that we do.
Great. And Anissa has a follow-up question here. Will there be any events in London soon? So what about meet and greets, trainings? How's that all working right now post COVID?
Mm-hmm. We have a meet and greet event in person on Tuesday evening next week. And on the same day at lunchtime, we have a virtual meet and greet as well. You can see on our website, there is an events page. You can go and sign up there. It's all done through Eventbrite, so the tickets are free. Okay. If you're able to come to the London one, in person one, we will provide food and drinks in the evening as well. So it's a great opportunity to network with current consultants. Understand a bit more about the application process, see the office, understand the culture, and see some demos of Tableau and Alteryx as well.
Yep. And I put a comment in the chat with the link to the events page, but it only goes to people that are watching on YouTube. So Anissa, I know you're on LinkedIn. So just go to thedataschool.co.uk/events and you'll see all of our upcoming events. We also run trainings, but those are all done virtually. So as part of your training at the Data School, you do prepare a class to teach the public. So those are all available as well. And those are on our Eventbrite page. Okay, so looks like Shreya, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name okay. Becoming a consultant, what would you say is most challenging and enjoyable about the role?
I personally enjoyed consulting very much. It's a very varied profession. So particularly in our core consulting team, which is what I did before, I'd be with different clients every week, maybe 2 days with one client, 3 days with another, or multiple clients within a week. The Data School is more long term, so you'd be there at a client for 6 months. I think the main difficulty people have when they start out being consultants is realizing that you're being employed not just to create dashboards all the time, but to actually use your knowledge and your expertise to advise the client as well. You're not just a robot producing outputs. What you are is an expert in this area, in the softwares that we specialize in. And yes, you will produce work for them, dashboards for them, workflows for them, but really you're there to advise them as well. And one of the best things you can learn how to do as a consultant is actually to say no to clients as well, in a nice way, obviously, because you're not just saying yes to everything they do, but you're advising them that maybe there's a better way to do something.
Okay. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to the interviews, right? So we're looking for people that, you need to understand what a consultant does, because that is a large part of the job. So you do have the technical piece of the job, but the consulting aspect of the job is very important. And in the interviews, we put you through situational questions. So think about the kind of situations that you might be in as a consultant, and maybe, do a bit of research and kind of see, how you can prepare for an interview that's more of a consulting based interview. So that's one of the areas where people tend to fall down in the interviews, is they don't really prepare for the questions in the interview. So think about the role outside of the technical part of the role for that kind of second set of questions. Maybe I'm giving too much away, but that's okay. I want people to be very prepared and make it really difficult for us to pick people. That's a good situation we're in. So Rohan has a question here. He always gets intimidated by the quality and appearance of the dashboards made by our applicants. So on the website, after every cohort starts, we put up a blog post that is for what their applications were like. So we call it successful applications. They're out there for all 34 cohorts so far. Can you tell us, so it gets intimidated by that. So, and we hear that from candidates a lot, how much time did they spend on this, those sorts of things. Can you tell them some resources? You may have missed this a bit earlier, Rohan, but how can they push themselves to reach that level of application?
I think firstly, it's important to remember that all of those people who created those visualizations on our website were in the same position as you very recently. Okay, so they produced that. It shows what's possible in a short amount of time. I would say also that a lot of those dashboards that you see are from the finals as well. So they've already done their
a bit more experience.
Yeah. So first of all, try not to be intimidated by it. I fully understand how it can be. But again, that's kind of down to you to go and figure out the resources that are available. So a lot of them are hiding in plain sight almost. I would say that Twitter is, I don't know if you're on Twitter at all, but if you are, it's a great resource to get extra feedback on your work as well. There's a hashtag which the Tableau community uses, which is data fam, as in data family. Use that hashtag if you publish something to Tableau public, tweet about it, tweet a link and say, hey, data fam, would anyone be able to give me some feedback on this? And it's a very friendly community, and people are happy to help. YouTube is great as for anything, whether you're learning an instrument or whatever. There's a ton of instructional videos on there. Our website is very good. Andy's website is great. You can learn by practicing as well. The Makeover Monday, which has recently returned, is, for a start, an amazing repository of data sets. There's a data set there, for 300
over 300
weeks.
and
it's recently restarted, so over 300 now. And they're all about incredibly diverse topics, so there's bound to be something there that you find interesting. You can also, if you use the hashtag Makeover Monday on Twitter, you can scroll back, and you scroll back far enough, you can actually see how other people have approached analyzing those data sets as well, so you can get ideas from that. Tableau public, again, go to the visit the day gallery. You can download pretty much all of the ones on there, pull them apart, reverse engineer them. So if you see something that looks cool that you'd like to learn, download it, pull it apart, have a look and see what people have done.
So I would use them more as inspiration, not necessarily comparing yourself to them. So a lot of people that come into the final interviews, they have a look at those successful applications for, okay, is there like a consistent style that we like, or, different things like that, just to give you ideas or sort of an approach for getting started with your final or with your application. So Olamide, can we join all the way from Nigeria? Unfortunately, we don't have a remote option right now. So you would need to be located in either London or New York or Germany. Okay, this is a really good question. What are other things that are likely to help their application, like a blog? What else? I guess getting involved with the community is a good way, of course. But what are anything else you can think of? Yeah.
As Andy said earlier, if you can get some extra dashboards on your Tableau public profile, that's a great indicator to us that it's not just another job application. It's something that actually you've dived into, and you've done a bit of extra work in your own time. Maybe you found some other interesting data sets and done some analysis on those. I would say as well, keep everything on your Tableau profile, because it shows us a clear improvement, or clear line of improvement, I guess, from where you first started, how you've started learning some more things and improved along the way.
Yeah, go back to, anybody that's been through the data school should have their all of their visualizations up on their Tableau public profile. Luke does, I do. It's a really good way to not only, it's also for yourself. Look at your progression that you see through, through your work. That's how I got my job at Facebook. They looked at my Tableau public profile and saw that I had progressed in this work, and I was continuing to develop my skills. And that's the same kind of thing that we look for. Okay, after applying, can I submit, and I assume this means after they've gotten feedback as well, this is from Reza, can I submit a new visualization or only improve on what was originally submitted?
We'd prefer it that you only improve on what you initially submitted. Occasionally, we do get some dashboards which are kind of beyond giving feedback to, basically, in which case maybe I don't mean that in a disparaging way. Maybe the data set that the candidate has chosen is too limited and doesn't allow them enough scope to create anything worthwhile, in which case we'll probably say to them that maybe choose another data set and come back. But if what you've chosen and what you've submitted is a good start, then we'd expect you to iterate and improve that version rather than just ditching it and applying with another dashboard.
Okay. Another question here. This is from Metahan. What would you say as a percentage is, let's say, I'm assuming this is kind of on placement, is consultancy versus analysis or any other areas?
So yeah, it's interesting. I guess it depends on how you interpret the question, but I would say for a start, there's a big difference between a consultant and a data consultant and a data analyst. So a data analyst, I see, I've worked in banking, I've worked in higher education, and we've had data analysts in all the jobs that I've done prior to the information lab. A data analyst very much is someone who kind of sits in the same chair all the time, probably works on the same data, and produces output. Whereas a consultant is also, there's a much more significant advisory role being a consultant than there is an analyst, I would say. That's not to say that data analysts can't advise anyone. Of course they can, but a consultant is actually employed for the benefit of their advice and their knowledge, as well as their skills at creating things. So I think it's difficult to put a percentage on it, really.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. I don't see any other questions in the chat that we haven't answered yet. Okay, so let's just take a couple more minutes. I think we kind of went past our expected time here, but really good questions, everybody. So thanks. Hopefully it's making for a good conversation for you. Okay. What about, so we also focus on Alteryx. So for those on the call, Alteryx is a tool that we use for data preparation. Pretty much it's used for getting data ready for analysis in Tableau. You can also do some predictive analytics and spatial analytics, but it's primarily used for taking messy data sets and cleaning it up. When they go into placements, what's kind of the split between Tableau and Alteryx as far as the tools that they use?
Classic consultants
It
answer.
depends.
It depends. We have a really broad range of clients. Some of them use Tableau exclusively, some of them use Alteryx exclusively, and some of them use a mixture of both. So it really does depend on which client you go to. I mean, I would say that most of them, the vast majority of them, use Tableau. Quite a lot of them use both, and only a few of them are Alteryx only.
Okay.
But I couldn't put a percentage on it, but that's probably how it works.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah. All right. This is a very important question, and we used to hear this kind of back around when we started. Is this a scam? What's the catch?
Where's that one? I'm looking at the question.
I'm looking at my questions.
Is it a scam? No, it's absolutely not a scam. And I speak to a lot of people in my job around the role in the company, and it's something that I think people tend to say, what's the catch? But there really isn't a catch. It's something that's a very mature business now. It started in 2015. We've had 400 people or so go through the program, or are in the process of going through the program, and really there's no catch to it. It's a really genuinely incredible option for someone looking to either change career or start out on a career in data analytics. You don't have to take my word for it. Go on LinkedIn, fix it to London in the job section, and type in Tableau. Last time I looked, there were 8,000 jobs asking for Tableau skills, which is really crazy. And part of the reason we started the data school was because we were getting an increasing number of requests for longer term consultancy engagements from our clients, as Tableau in particular became a more mature product in the market. Companies were wanting a longer term consultancy option, which we didn't have just with our core team. So that's one of the reasons the data school was set up. Another really is to try and address the demand for data analysts, and we're all very passionate about data literacy as well. And we genuinely hope that people go out and have a really successful career, and this is a subject that we're all inherently passionate about, and we love it, and we hope that sentiment comes across to people who are interested in working with us.
Yeah. Okay. I can answer these questions real quick. So Abbas asks, is it too late to apply for the next cohort? No, the deadline is October 14th. Would you recommend any routes to learn Tableau more effectively? So we covered that earlier. So I think we've covered it twice now. So just go back and listen to the recording. Other than Google, what's the best way to research on data consultancy? So that's from Jane. So yeah, Google, obviously. Check out the Data School blog as well. You can learn about what they do on placement, how they prepared for the interviews, those sorts of things as well. All right. So I think I'm just going to go one more question, Luke, and let's talk a bit about pay. what do people get paid? How does that work during training? Do they get reduced pay? What's the let's just kind of set expectations there.
Okay, so the pay, well, first of all, the contract is 28 months, and in the UK, the pay for that is there's a pay hike in the middle. So for the first 4 months of training, you're fully paid from day one, and also for placement 1 and 2. So the salary for the first 16 months is £35,000 per annum. So that's your training, placement 1, placement 2. For placement 3 and 4, it rises to 40,000 per annum. We also offer a pension, 25 days holiday, mobile phone, laptop as well.
Okay. Okay, so we just had another question come in from Karina. How does one get assigned to placements? Do we have to do interviews with companies, or is it assigned by the data school? So that's there's sort of 3 parts to that, Karina. One is what is the client looking for? So they may have particular projects that they want us to scope out or for people to work on. What skills do they need to for those particular projects? The second part is who does the information lab think is the best for that job? So, we give feedback as coaches to Steph Kearns. She's the one that does placements for us, or that kind of connects data scores with the companies they're going to do placements for. So we give her feedback about who we think might be a good fit for that particular role. And then the third part is you. You can always put your hand up and say, hey, I'd like to go do a placement at PwC or wherever it might be. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you can put your hand up. So it's a combination of those 3 things. As far as interviews, we don't really have too many of those anymore. We used to when the clients were first getting onboarded with us. So when we have a new client come on, they'll probably interview the first couple of data schoolers they come through. But once we're there, they just kind of trust us for the most part from there. Let's see. Okay, so I think that answers that question. Actually, I'm going to ask a few more questions because I think there's some that are really important.
There's a question on diversity.
Okay. Yeah, I must have missed that one. Yep.
So a question from Neutrino5445. So how diverse is the data school in terms of BAME? I don't have a percentage for you, but I can tell you that we are committed to having as diverse a workforce as possible. We have really great, in my opinion, representation from all elements of society. We also have an extraordinarily diverse range of experiences within the company as well. And one of the reasons that we decide not to concentrate on not to say that you have to have a STEM degree or you have to be a coder or you have to have done computer science is because of the elements that I talked about earlier, the analytical, creative, people and technical elements to the role. No one set of background skills is particularly suited to all of those. So, we've had people who've done PhDs, we've had people who haven't been to university, we've had career changers, we've had fresh grads, we've had we've had a Shakespearean actor, a doctor, a dentist. We employed someone who was a landscape gardener recently. It's all of this makes a really great place to work, in my opinion, and I think everyone will agree with that. But if you're looking in terms of BAME, all of our team members are on our website in the team section.
Yeah, just have a scroll through it. Yeah. Okay. Another question from Reza. What are the penalties for breaking the contract before the 28 months ends?
Okay, so in the contract there is a break clause. However, this has never been actually invoked, other than when a client has poached one of our consultants. It's happened a couple of times only, where one of our consultants has gone on a placement and the client has offered them a job and effectively poached them from us. In that case, the client has been responsible for paying the break clause. Okay, it's not in our interests. We're absolutely not interested in penalizing individuals. There are other similar businesses out there who have been in the spotlight recently, and we're very aware of this, on aggressively chasing people for break clauses. That's not how we operate. In fact, I think at one point Tom was even thinking about taking that clause out, or at least rewording it for being more client focused. So So yeah, that's not really how we operate. And what we really hope is that actually that clause doesn't even come into the thinking at all, and that you enjoy the work, you enjoy working for us, you understand and appreciate the opportunities that at the end of the data school will become apparent and will be available to you, and we just hope people don't leave. And to be honest, we have an extremely low turnover rate of people, given the number
I
of
think
people
there's only
that have
been
gone
like
through
2 or
it.
3 probably, out of
we,
a couple hundred now. So
we have had people get the dream job come out of the blue in an area that they used to work in, and a couple of people have chosen to take that opportunity. In that case, it's not in our interest really to chase them and ask them for a huge amount of money, because we don't want people who are going to be working for us who aren't happy in the role, because that will affect our client relationships and have a detrimental effect on our clients as well. So we want everyone to be happy and enjoy the role and get something out of it and see some tangible benefits from working for us.
And when you finish your contract, you're put onto our alumni network. So they still have access to all of the people that are that are currently with the information lab. So we're now seeing people that have left the data school and gone on to other jobs after their contract. They're now coming back to us and hiring people from the data school. So if you leave early, you lose access to all of that. We also do events throughout the year where alumni are invited, so it's a great way to do networking. So those are some of the kind of intangible benefits that you get to have for the rest of your career. Okay, what is the expectation? This is from Sapna. Is it for intermediate or expert level? So there is no expectation at the beginning, Sapna. I can guarantee you'll be an expert when you finish training. I would probably put everybody that's gone through the data school probably in the top couple of percentage in the world in what they do. I'm very confident with that. Okay, let's do one more question, Luke, and then we'll call it quits. What's the office culture like, or the culture at the Information Lab?
It's very different to anywhere I've worked before. So as I mentioned earlier, my background is in banking and higher education, very much big open plan offices, people sitting in the same desk doing the same stuff all the time, strict dress codes. Here it's almost the opposite to that. So during your training period, there is no dress code in the office. You can wear shorts if you want to. The only time,
except for when clients come in, sorry, I beat
well,
you to it.
Say the only time that we ask you to be a bit smarter is when clients come in. During your 4 months training, you can think of it as 16 week-long modules. And during that time, you'll do 8 client projects, which are free projects we give to clients. So we say to our clients, do you want a free week of consulting? Maybe they've got a project they need to get done and haven't got the resource or similar. So you'll do 8 of those projects during your training period. There are 8 of you in the cohort. Each one of you will, in the cohort, will be able to be project manager for one. So when the client comes in on a Monday to give you the data, we ask people to be a bit smarter. When you present back on the Friday, we ask you to be a bit smarter as well. Other than that, we want you to be as comfortable as possible in the office. So I'm currently on the second floor of our office. This is more of a traditional workspace. So people who are on placements which are significantly remote can choose to work from home, or they can choose to come in here, use the internet, and be around other people. Downstairs is our main area. If you come to the meet and greet on Tuesday, you'll see that. But it's much more relaxed. There's table tennis. There are Sonos speakers. So there's music. There's a bar and kitchen area as well, and it's a really cool environment to work in and to be around.
Yeah, very social. Is we find that when people start that job, a lot of them, or obviously you're not going to know anybody else there, and you become most of the people that have gone through the DS, their best friends are people in the DS, especially those that are in their cohort. Actually, I know I said that was going to be the last question, but I think there's 2 more that we need to cover to make sure that we sort of give the as much information as possible. What does life look like after the data school? So after the 28-month contract.
It's genuinely extremely bright. I can't think of anyone in the 400 or so people who've gone through the program who've struggled to get a job at the end of it in a really good company. Such as the demand, I mentioned LinkedIn earlier, such as the demand for data analytics skills in the software that we specialize currently. And the options are, we have our core consulting team here, which is part of the information lab side of the business. I mentioned them earlier. We do more short-term consultancy gigs, supporting our licensed clients. So we sell licenses as well, and those clients tend to use our core team for short-term consulting. So we could offer you a role in that team, and that would be a permanent role. We have, due to the number of people we have leaving throughout the year, we have various windows where you can express interest in joining our core team. And depending on the size of what the company is doing at that particular time, we will employ a variable number of people who are leaving the data school. There's also a lot of scope for us finding you a job with our clients as well. Our clients, a lot of them have been with us for a long time. They know that we produce the best people in this area, and they actually come to us sometimes before advertising roles. We had a big consultancy come in a couple of weeks ago, and they were actually pitching roles to our upcoming leavers in the hope that they would be able to potentially employ some of them on a permanent basis. And our sales team also are very switched on as to which of their clients are hiring as well, and they can also put the word out that we've got people interested in a particular industry or whatever. So there's, or alternatively, you can go out by yourself and go contracting through an agent or find your own role. But we very much are still, we still are concerned about how our alumni do afterwards, and we want them to be in the best roles possible for them as well. So we are quite happy to assist, and we have lots of contacts in the industry.
What's the best way for them to get more information about the data school, to get in touch with us, to get in touch with yourself?
So through the website, we have a sign-up form for our mailing list, and come to our events as well. I mentioned on Tuesday, Andy's put a link in the chat. We run meet and greets every couple of months, virtual and in person, and they are absolutely the best way to meet people in the company and get a feel for what we do, what we're all about, the atmosphere, the culture, etc. So I would really advise doing that.
And what about connecting with you? So LinkedIn, Twitter.
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Connect with anyone within the company. I would also say that you can go onto our website on the team page, and there are links to everyone's Tableau Public and Twitter and LinkedIn under their profile. Everyone, as I said, was in the same position as you relatively recently, thinking of applying, and they're more than happy to help, have a chat, have a video call, exchange messages on LinkedIn. Up to you really. But again, if you're thinking of applying, it pays to be proactive and reach out to people and get your name out there as well. I had a question for you, Andy, as well. What do you look for in someone in the interviews from a coach's perspective?
Well, that's a good question. Curiosity it should be pretty clear that you, as far as the visualization, that you've really thought through the analysis. What's the kind of structure of your thought process? If it's just a bunch of charts, then that's not really telling me a whole lot. I'm looking for somebody that's kind of demonstrating some analytical skills. So my tip there is to kind of start every chart with a question that you're trying to answer, and then have the dashboard have a question as well. Make sure those charts that have their own question help answer the overall question, and that'll kind of help you with that flow. And then you can change the titles later to, if you don't want them to be questions anymore. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in the visualization or the demo part of the interview. Of course, practice your demo as well. It's very obvious when somebody doesn't practice, and then I'm kind of like, well, why would you go to an interview and not rehearse? I just don't get that. So that's definitely puts you down in my books, at least for that is be prepared for an interview. As far as kind of the consulting questions, I look to see if people really looked into what the role involves. It's pretty easy to know if somebody's done research about us as a company and about the role in particular and about consultancy. like any other interview, just look at the role, look at the job description, see what kind of questions you might be asked, all those sorts of things. So preparation is probably the number one thing that I look for. Yep.
Cool, makes sense.
Yeah, one more tip for people. If you are going to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, whether it's Luke or myself or anybody else, I highly encourage you to leave them a note when you send the connection request. Let Luke know, hey, I heard you on this AMA. I'm interested in applying to the data school, something like that. Just let people know that why you're reaching out to them, and they're much more likely to accept your connection request. Okay, so again, if you want more information, I'll put it in the show notes. And Luke, thank you very much for your time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks, Andy.
All right. Bye.